Unless otherwise posted, the speed limit in school zones is A. 10 miles per hour, B. 35 miles per hour, C. 25 miles per hour, D. 30 miles per hour. Unless otherwise posted, the speed limit in school zones is C. 25 miles per hour. Maximum speed limits are used to indicate the maximum legal speed drives can go under ideal conditions. In a school zone, the maximum speed limit is 25 miles per hour unless there is a speed limit sign that says otherwise. In poor conditions or when traffic is heavy, you should be driving slower than the maximum speed limit. When driving in fog you should A. Use your hazards lights, B. Use your daytime running lights, C. Use your high beam headlights, D. Use your low beam headlights. When driving in fog you should D. Use your low beam headlights. Visibility is greatly reduced in foggy conditions. The safest thing to do when the fog is heavy is to not drive at all. If you're able to wait until the fog has cleared to continue your trip, it is smart to do so. However, if you must drive in the fog, you should use your low beam headlights. When should you use your high beam headlights at night? A. When driving in the rain. B. Anytime you are driving at night. C. When you are driving in dark areas with no other vehicles around you. D. When driving in the fog. When should you use your high beam headlights at night? C. When you are driving in dark areas with no other vehicles around you. Your car's high beam headlights can typically illuminate the road up to 2 times as much as your low beam headlights. High beams can be useful in situations where it is dark and difficult to see, such as roads with no streetlights, rural highways, country roads, unfamiliar areas, dark areas where pedestrians are walking along the side of the road. When driving behind another vehicle at night, you should A. Use your low beam headlights, B. Use your high beam headlights, C. Maintain a 2-second following distance, D. None of these. When driving behind another vehicle at night, you should A. Use your low beam headlights. Whenever you are driving around other vehicles at night, your headlights should always be on the low beam setting. High beam headlights can create glare for other drivers and make them temporarily blinded. When you are driving behind other vehicles moving in the same direction, keep your low beams on. When there are vehicles approaching you from the opposite direction, you should also switch to your low beams. Where are the most likely places for car and motorcycle collisions to occur? A. Highway interchanges, B. Freeways, C. Intersections, D. Business districts. C. Intersections are the most likely places for car and motorcycle collisions to occur. The cause of these collisions at intersections is often due to the driver of the car not seeing the motorcycle. That is why it is important to look twice for motorcyclists and to make a conscious effort to scan the road ahead and around you for motorcycles. Due to their small size and speed, spotting motorcycles is more difficult than spotting other cars. If you are going 55 miles per hour, you will need more than how many feet to safely pass another vehicle? A. 1,600 feet. B. 800 feet. Circa 400 feet. D. 200 feet. If you are going 55 miles per hour, you will need more than 1,600 feet to safely pass another vehicle. At highway speeds of 55 miles per hour, you will travel approximately 800 feet every 10 to 12 sections. This means that you'll need at least twice that distance, or about 1,600 feet, to pass another vehicle safely. When making a pass on a 2-lane highway with traffic moving in opposite directions, you'll also need to take into account oncoming traffic. When entering a street from an unpaved road, you should A. Only make a right turn. B. Turn onto the paved street as the other vehicles will yield to you. C. Yield to vehicles on the paved street. D. yield to vehicles coming from your right. When entering a street from an unpaved road, you should C. Yield to vehicles on the paved street. When you are pulling back onto the road from an unpaved side street or driveway, the vehicles on the paved street have the right of way. Before you turn onto the street, check both ways for vehicles and yield to any cars that are approaching in either direction. A single broken. What color line shows traffic flowing in opposite directions? A. Blue. B. White. C. Yellow. D. Red. A single broken, C. Yellow line shows traffic flowing in opposite directions. Yellow lines divide lanes of traffic that move in the opposite directions. A single, broken yellow line indicates that adjacent lanes flow in the opposite way and either side is permitted to use the opposite lane to pass if it is clear and safe to do so. A center divider line that has a broken and a solid yellow line side by side indicates that the lane next to the broken line can use the opposite lane to pass. A solid yellow line on either side should not be crossed over to pass. An edge line that angles toward the center of the road indicates that A. The road widens ahead. B. The road narrows ahead. C. There is a merge ahead. D. The shoulder can be used for passing. An edge line that angles toward the center of the road indicates that B. The road narrows ahead. When you see a solid white line along the side of the shoulder that is angled towards the center of the road at a slant, it means that the road will gradually become more narrow ahead. This road marking may also be accompanied by a road narrows sign. When you encounter this on the highway, it is important that you stay in your lane and avoid drifting too far to the left. If you do not have what, always drive with your low beam headlights on. A. Daytime running lights. B. High beam headlights. C. Hazard lights. D. Fog lights. If you do not have A. Daytime running lights, always drive with your low beam headlights on. Most modern cars are equipped with daytime running lights. These types of headlights go on automatically when the car is started. If you have an older vehicle or a car that's not equipped with daytime running lights, it's a smart idea to turn on your low beam headlights when you drive. The reason for using your headlights during the day is to increase your visibility. What is a turnout area? A. An area on narrow roads to allow other vehicles to pass. B. An area on narrow roads to make a U-turn. C. A lane for turning. D. A rest area. What is a turnout area? A. An area on narrow roads to allow other vehicles to pass. A turnout area is commonly found on narrow mountain roads to allow other vehicles to pass you. These are typically used on roads with a single lane of traffic moving in opposite directions. Turnouts are a section on the side of the road when you can pull over to when other vehicles want to pass. In most situations, you are required to enter the turnout and allow the vehicles behind you to pass when there is a line of at least 5 cars built up behind you. When a right turn on red is permitted, you must still A. Wait until the light is green. B. Come to a complete stop. C. Only turn if you have a green arrow. D. Keep moving without stopping. When a right turn on red is permitted, you must still B. Come to a complete stop. If there are no signs or traffic lights prohibiting it, you can make a right turn on a red light at many intersections. But first, you'll need to come to a complete stop at the limit line. Once you've stopped, you'll need to yield to any pedestrians, bicycles, and vehicles that have a green light. If the road is clear, you can complete your right turn. Many cars will begin to float in as little as, how much standing water? A. 3 feet. B. 2 feet. C. 1 foot. D. 6 inches. Many cars will begin to float in as little as D. 6 inches of standing water. Flooded roadways are extremely dangerous. Many vehicles can begin to float in as little as 6 inches of water. When that occurs, you will have no control over your vehicle. Moving water can quickly wash you and your vehicle away, and cars can become flooded very quickly. If you come across a flooded road or area of standing water, do not attempt to drive across it. When approaching a railroad crossing, you must look A. Ahead for stopped traffic. B. To the right for oncoming trains. C. To the left for oncoming trains. D. Both directions for oncoming trains. When approaching a railroad crossing, you must look D. Both directions for oncoming trains. Railroad crossings are some of the most dangerous areas on the road. Even if the railroad is controlled by a gate and signaling device, you should always assume that a train could be approaching at any time. Whenever you approach a railroad, you should check both directions to make sure there are no trains coming. Which of the following is not true about seatbelts? A. Seatbelts are only required for passengers under 18 years old. B. Seatbelts are not effective in low-speed collisions. C. Seatbelts do not need to be worn on short drives. D. None of these are true. Which of the following is not true about seatbelts? D. None of these are true. Most states require that the driver and all passengers be wearing a properly fastened seatbelt when the vehicle is moving. Small children are required to be seated in a federally approved car seat in the back seats of the vehicle. Regardless of the length of your drive or the type of collision, your seatbelt along with your vehicle's airbags and other safety features will help to keep you safer and greatly reduce your risk of serious injury or death. Your car's safety features are designed to be used together, and are most effective when used together properly. As you enter the deceleration lane or the exit ramp, slow down in A. Stop immediately. B. Continue slowing to the posted advisory speed limit before you reach the traffic signal or get back onto the surface streets. C. Turn on your emergency lights. D. Then continue driving at the speed limit posted on the freeway. As you enter the deceleration lane or the exit ramp, slow down in B. Continue slowing to the posted advisory speed limit before you reach the traffic signal or get back onto the surface streets. Sometimes, you'll also need to watch out for traffic merging onto the freeway as you try to get into the deceleration lane. Avoid crossing over solid white lines, and avoid changing multiple lanes at once. With any turning vehicle, the rear wheels follow A. What, then the front wheels? A. Equal path. B. Slower path. C. Shorter path. D. Longer path. With any turning vehicle, the rear wheels follow A. C. Shorter path, than the front wheels. The rear wheels of a turning vehicle will follow a shorter path compared to the front wheels. The longer the vehicle or the longer the wheelbase, the greater the difference will be. The main reason why it is important for drivers to know this fact is when driving behind or next to large trucks, buses, and other large vehicles. A funeral procession has the right of way at intersections, unless A. The traffic light is red. B. An emergency vehicle is responding to an emergency with lights or sirens. C. It is a Wednesday. D. It is turning left. A funeral procession has the right of way at intersections, unless B. An emergency vehicle is responding to an emergency with lights or sirens. In most cases, a funeral procession, which consists of a caravan of cars headed to a cemetery or place of worship, has the right of way at an intersection. If the lead car passes through an intersection, the cars that are following it are generally allowed to follow, even if the light has turned red. Sometimes, the funeral procession will be escorted by police vehicles to help guide and direct traffic. When can you drive in a lane with a red X above it? A. Only on weekends. B. Never. C. During rush hour. D. If you are driving a vehicle with at least 2 people in it. When can you drive in a lane with a red X above it? B. Never. Lane use control signals are types of traffic lights to control the flow and direction of traffic in specific lanes. These are common on highways with reversible lanes, toll booths, parking garages, and freeway entrance ramps. On freeways with reversible lanes, lane use signals are designed to help improve traffic during rush hour. When you are driving on a highway with lane use control lights, do not enter a lane with a red X. When parking uphill with a curb. A. Turn your wheels away from the curb. B. Turn your wheel towards the curb. C. Make sure your wheels are straight. D. You must use wheel chocks. When parking uphill with a curb. A. Turn your wheels away from the curb. When you're parking uphill next to a curb, you'll want to set your parking brake, place your transmission in park, and turn your wheels away from the curb, or towards the street. If your parking brake fails and your vehicle begins to roll, the front wheel will catch the curb and stop it from rolling away. Had your wheels been facing the other way, it is possible for your vehicle to roll into the street and cause an accident. When you hear a siren coming, you should A. Continue driving normally. B. Speed up to get out of the emergency vehicle's way. C. Pull to the right side of the road and stop until it passes. D. Slow down, but continue driving. When you hear a siren coming, you should C. Pull to the right side of the road and stop until it passes. If you hear a siren approaching, that means an emergency vehicle is responding to an emergency. Drivers are required to pull over and stop until the emergency vehicles have safely passed. Additionally, drivers cannot follow too closely behind an emergency vehicle with its lights or sirens on. If you hear an emergency vehicle approaching while you are still in an intersection, wait until you have crossed the intersection and then find a place to pull over and stop. If an approaching driver refuses to switch his high beams to low, you should A. Honk your horn. B. Flash your high beam headlights back at them. C. Look towards the right side of the road. D. Look towards the left side of the road. If an approaching driver refuses to switch his high beams to low, you should C. Look towards the right side of the road. If an oncoming vehicle fails to dim their headlights when they approach you, you can be temporarily blinded if you look at them straight on. In these situations, it's best to glance towards the right side of the road to avoid being blinded. This method allows you to still pay attention to the road while avoiding the glare of the oncoming car's lights. Vehicle stopping distances never depend on A. The condition of your brakes and tires. B. Your driving speed. C. Other cars on the road. D. The condition of the road surface. Vehicle stopping distances never depend on C. Other cars on the road. The total stopping distance depends on the time it takes to identify and react to a reason to stop, the condition of the vehicle's brakes and tires, how fast you are driving, the size and weight of the vehicle, the visibility and weather conditions, the condition of the road surface. A good space cushion is likely to A. Give you more time and space to react to hazards. B. Prevent you from following other vehicles too closely. C. Provide you with more room for evasive maneuvers. D. All of these. A good space cushion is likely to D. All of these. A proper space cushion all around your vehicle is one of the most important aspects to driving defensively and being a safe driver. A space cushion, which consists of adequate space in front, behind, and to the sides of your vehicles, gives you more time and space to react to hazards on the road. Do you have to stop at a green light when turning right? A. No, but you must always slow down to 10 miles per hour. B. Yes, if there are vehicles turning left. C. No, you never need to stop when the light is green. D. Yes, if there are pedestrians or other vehicles still in the intersection. Do you have to stop at a green light when turning right? D. Yes, if there are pedestrians or other vehicles still in the intersection. When you have a green light at an intersection where you plan to turn right, you only need to stop if there are pedestrians crossing the street or if there are other vehicles still in the intersection. Otherwise, you may proceed with your right turn without stopping when the light is green. Great job! Here are some of your next steps to getting your learner's permit or driver's license. Read and study the official driver handbook from your state DMV. Take more free practice tests at puedomanejar.com. Gather all your necessary forms and documents before you visit the DMV office. Before you know it, you'll be driving in your very own car all by yourself. puedomanejar.com. Free DMV practice tests and much more to help you pass your real exams. Visit us today.